and they've won 34 races and over £1,500,000 in win and place prize money. Put in as a placemaker, number 1 Aracat, the Mount of Paul Edery. Number 2 Corrupt. Cash Asmussen won the French Derby just a few days ago. He rides Corrupt today. Number 3 Environment Friend is the Mount of George Duffield. Number 4 Generous, Alan Munro. Number 5 Hailsham, ridden by Steve Gawtham, one of Clive Britton's 2 runners in the race. Number 6 Hector Protector for France is ridden by Freddie Head, and there is Hector Protector, and a bundle of muscle he does look too. That's number 6 Hector Protector. Then Freddie Head rides, it's his 6th Derby ride on this Son of Woodman, trained in France by Francois Boutin. Hector Protector, number 6. Number 7 is Hokusai, ridden by Lester Biggott. Number 8 Hundra by Bruce Raymond. Number 9 Marju by Willie Carson. Number 10 Mujasif by Walter Swinburne. Number 11 the General Accident 2000 Guineas winner Mystico, ridden by Michael Roberts. Number 12 Star of Gdansk, Christy Roach. And completing the lineup, number 13 Toulon, the Mount of Pat Edery. So the runners making their way from the saddling boxes to the parade ring proper. There's Paul Cole supervising the last-minute preparation of horse number 4 Generous, who was 4th to Mystico in the Guineas, but a Group 1 winner in his own right, and a horse guaranteed to stay the trip. Alan Munro's 2nd Derby ride. So the horses in the parade ring already, but let's take a check on the odds.
Toulon is the 7-2 favourite. Corrupt is 4-1 from 9-2. Mystico also a 9-2 chance, this time from 5-1. And Hector Protector 7-1 from 13-2. Generous at 8-1. Environment Friend steady on 12s. And Star of Gdansk has gone out to 14-1 over the 12-1. Marju is on 16s. Hokusai 25-1 from 33s. And Hailsham is 40-1 from 33-1. Mujasif is 40-1 from 33s, like Hailsham, and Hundra is 66-1 from 50s. Aracat's the outsider at 250-1. All quoted for the Derby Stakes.
And there is one of the 3 greys who might produce a rare grey Derby winner. That's Mystico, Lady Beaverbrook's 2,000 Guineas winner. Mystico and Lysias finished well clear of the rest at Newmarket, but and admittedly Lysias has been beaten a bit further by Star of Gdansk since then. The question is, of course, whether Mystico will stay. Clive Britton's been at pains to settle him down this season. Clive is confident that he will get a mile and a half. He's also confident that the bruised foot, which Mystico suffered at the weekend, won't worry him today. What do you think about that, John?
Well, we won't know until the race is actually taking place, but if Clive says that he's right, then he is, and obviously wouldn't dream of running the horse if he didn't think he was 100% sound. And a lot of his preparation, even prior to bruising his foot, would have been done in Clive's swimming pool. One of 6 runners, though, that hasn't yet run beyond a mile.
And one of 2 French challengers is Toulon, and in France, I gather, they can't understand why we fancy Toulon more than Hector Protector. Nevertheless, when this fellow Toulon barged his way out of trouble to win the Chester Vase, it did at the time look a really impressive Derby trial. The ground was soft at Chester, mind you, and although Toulon's certain to stay the distance, he's a big horse with a roundish action, and some of the French think, and I think, that he's not guaranteed to find Epsom any picnic.
Now, there's 1 or 2 of those runners in this race that you could say that maybe won't be suited by the firm ground and racing downhill. Sometimes you can get away with it on a level course, but when they gallop downhill, these heavy-topped horses, that's when they begin to feel the jar. But of the trials we've seen, to me, he's been the most impressive to date. Well, Hector Protector is unbeaten in 8 races so far. You just heard John saying the French can't understand why this horse isn't more fancied than his compatriot Toulon. Well, to me, he looks magnificent in the paddock. He's a horse who won't be inconvenienced at all by the fast ground. He was a winner over a mile at 2, although he's never run further than a mile. He won over that distance, as I said, as a 2-year-old in soft ground, won the Criterion, and put up a tremendous performance last time out, winning the French Guineas. Came from quite a long way behind to just collar Acteur Francais right on the line. He's a horse who I think will get the trip.
He's ridden, of course, by Freddie Head, who would dearly love to win a Derby. There are a lot of jokes about Freddie Head's performances at Epsom. He did have an unhappy time on Liffard. But the fact is that Freddie Head has won more than 90 group races in his career. If Hector Protector gets the trip and is good enough, so will his jockey be. Environment Friend, number 3, was a 20-to-1 shot when he won the Dante Stakes at York, but that was the first time he'd run beyond a mile. Corrupt, for instance, had beaten him easily over decisively over 7 furlongs at Kempton, but the extra distance improved Environment Friend out of all knowledge at York, and he's running another 2 furlongs now. In one way, he'd be a unique winner, because his 29-year-old trainer, James Fanshawe, only in his 2nd season, rode 13 point-to-point winners for George Duffield, who rides him. Well, for George and his wife Jill, and I don't think that's happened before in Derby history.
I shouldn't think there'd be a more popular winner either, probably with the exception of Mystico, certainly in the weighing room anyway, because George Duffield, one of the real favourites in the weighing room. Normally he doesn't come to Epsom, he's usually riding up north somewhere, but this horse, the further he went in that Dante, the better he was going. He beat Hailsham 5 lengths. He's got to be respected on that form.
Well, we've got a bit of a surprise here, because the jockeys have gone down, but they've forgotten the 2 Americans. Steve Cawthon and Cash Asmussen have been left here. The other jockeys have actually gone down, but there's Cash there. Cash and Steve Cawthon have been left up here. The paddock, of course, is about 300 yards away, so they have to be bussed down. All the other jockeys have gone, but they forgot about Cawthon and Cash. They're on the way now.
Well, whatever happens to the jockeys, this is the only Irish challenger. Star of Gdansk, and he's a formidable candidate at that. I told you when he was narrowly beaten in the Irish 2,000 guineas by the American colt, Lysias was a good deal further behind Star of Gdansk than he had been behind Mystico in the English guineas. This colt isn't guaranteed to stay a mile, but his sire, Danzig Connection, did win the a mile and a half. He did win the mile and a half Belmont Stakes. It's entirely possible that Star of Gdansk will stay.
And Jim Bolger, really astute trainer, would have sent this horse over if he didn't think he had a good chance. And he stuck on really well when he was 2nd to 4 stars, all-stars in that Irish Guineas. And if he's there with half a chance in the dip, I'm sure he'll battle right the way to the line.
And there are the jockeys, a complete contingent, I sincerely hope, led by Walter Swinburne, with Michael Roberts in Lady Beaverbrook's colours, and not surprisingly, Leicester being asked for his autograph by a policeman, I think.
Thought he was being stopped by them for a minute.
And who would have thought that we should ever see that sight again? After 6 years, the great jockey, the greatest Derby jockey in history, walking into the Derby parade ring.
There is Corrupt. Really tough horse this by Lear Fanny. He was 100 to 1 for this contest after he'd won the Easter Stakes, which we showed you earlier in the clips from Derby Fancies. And then after he won the Lingfield Derby trial, he's been supported, and now I think he's 2nd favourite. He was quite impressive at Lingfield. The thing I liked about this horse was that he came off the bridle and really put his head down and quickened up well for Cash Asmussen.
There's Toulon, one of the 2 French colts. As I said, we fancy him more than the French, really. But that day when he won at Chester, he was awfully impressive. If we get a look at him broadside on, you'll see he's a tall horse. I think he stands nearly 17 hands. And when he moves, he seems to me to pound this very hard, fast ground.
Well, let's have a look at the oldest horse in the field now, Generous. Was foaled on February the 8th, makes a big difference. Certainly he's a couple of months older Then Hokusai, Paul Cole having a tremendous season. Ran Zoman in this race last year. And this horse already the winner of the Group 1 Dewhurst last year. Paul Cole said he lost his way with him a little bit during the mid-season. He was comprehensively beaten by Hector Protector, but apparently he didn't travel particularly well. Then came out and was a 50-to-1 winner. Didn't actually surprise Connections when he won the Dewhurst. The further he went that day, the better he was going. And I know that he's well fancied by the Watcombe team, but he's got a fair bit of improvement to make up on that run from the 2000 Guineas. He hasn't run since, but he's been to Newbury, and apparently he's worked particularly well.
Alan Munro's second ride in the Derby. He was 12th last year, his first run on Sober Mind. And the royal party leaving the parade ring. Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mother, the most expert member of the royal family about national hunt racing. I suppose the daughter of the Queen would be reckoned to know more about flat racing. They're both great enthusiasts. And there's Star of Gdansk, the Irish challenger, ridden by Christy Roach, who won on Secreto, Mystico's sire. Was Aracat, pacemaker for Toulon. Paul Edery rides, having his third ride in the Derby. He was second on Most Welcome.
Trained by Barry Hills, this horse was at 4 seconds in the Derby. In actual fact, I think he was disappointed on all those 4 occasions. Well, he'd be delighted if Aracat's second.
And somewhat surprised, I should think.
Paul Edery in good form yesterday, had a double. There's the man.
There he is, and the oldest rider in the race, the youngest runner. Hokusai was only born on May the 22nd, but don't forget, he's got pretty reasonable form. We saw him being a good third to Marjou over a mile in the Craven Stakes, and last time out in France, he didn't run at all badly against Sillery. He was 4th of 7 runners in the Prix Jean Prat, and Jim McGrath, my French form expert, tells me that wasn't at all a bad run. So if Hokusai gets the trip, which he may, who knows? He might carry Leicester into the frame.
Well, he was doing all of his best work in the closing stages, that's for certain. And I, for one, think that he's got a chance. Well, one horse who, even if he doesn't win, has already done well for Connections because he's a winner of the Italian Derby. That's Hailsham. Steve Coulthon riding this horse for Clive Britton. And if he wins this afternoon, he'll get an extra £27,000 to go along with the £355,000 that he'll get for winning, because he's already won the Thresher Classic Trial at Sandown, and the sponsors of that race said they'll double whatever he won if he wins today.
And there's Willie Carson on Marjou, one of the best bred colts in this, well, most fashionably bred, because Marjou is a half-brother to the great Salsa Bill. And as a matter of fact, if Marjou hadn't run in the 2000 Guineas, he'd nearly be favourite for this, because after that Craven victory, he was made a hot favourite for the 2000 Guineas and hurt himself in the first Classic. He injured one of his hind legs, so it's entirely possible that he can be excused that failure. John Dunlop reckons he's got him back right now, so if he gets the trip, who knows?
Can't have been easy to get this horse ready to run here, though, this afternoon. He's obviously off with that pulled muscle for some time. He's also lacks a little bit in experience, only having had the 3 runs. But when he won the Craven, he really did quicken up in good style when he realised what was it all about.
There's Hundra, Paul Kellaway's runner. Bruce Raymond's already had a winner today. This is his 5th ride in the Derby. And this is a winner of the D Stakes, you remember. He beat Half a Tick at Chester and looked a pretty decent horse that day.
He looks magnificent as well. Hundra kept on galloping. He was a surprise winner of the D Stakes. A little bit of cut in the ground. And really, I suppose, what we were saying about Toulon in the ground maybe been a little bit on the far side for him. Might just apply to Hundra as well now that it's dried out. It was good to firm, or good rather. Now it's good to firm. Finally, the Royal Lodge winner of last year, Musha Heath. He's only had the 1 run so far this year. That was in the Guineas, where he was disappointing. Michael Stout, though, wouldn't be running if he didn't think he had a chance.
So they make their way from the parade ring out onto the track. That's Arakat, the grey, in the race as a pacemaker. Corrupt, one of the heavily backed horses. Cash Asmussen. Another grey in the race is Environment Friend. George Duffield rides, and an easy to spot white cap. The all green colours are Generous. Alan Munro's second Derby ride. Horse just getting a little bit keen, interested in what's going on. Hailsham already won a Derby, and it's the maroon and the white sleeves. Hector Protector in the light blue cross belts, and then Leicester on Hokusai black and white. Bruce Raymond Hunter in the green jacket. Striped cap of Marju, Willie Carson, of course, with Troy Henwitt and Nashwan, and then Walter Swinburne in the other blue jacket. The light blue cap, of course, he's Shergar and Sharastani. Mystica, another grey. Michael Roberts in the brown with the green cross belts. And then the Irish runner, Star of Gdansk. Secreto was the last Irish runner to win. Christy Roach rides that one today, Star of Gdansk. And then Toulon Padery with Grundy, Golden Fleece and Quest for Fame. But the horses out on the course, and those are the odds of reward.
And we have joint favourites, Toulon and Karat, both at 4-1. Mystico is 5-1, back from 9-2. Hector Protector is 6-1, open up at 7s. And Generous 9-1 from 8-1. Environment Friend steady on 12s. Star of Gdansk is 14-1, opened at 12-1. And Marju 16s. Hokusai is 25-1 from 33s. Hailsham 40-1. Mujalsif is now out to 50-1, opened at 33-1. Hundra is 66s, and Arakat, the outsider, 250-1, all quoted for the Derby Stakes.
And now in front of the stands, in front of the royal party, the Derby horses go on parade.
And as they canter back down, Mystico has been noticeably on his toes, but seemed to be keeping his nerves under reasonable control. He has been taken slowly to the post in the past. There's Corrupt leading Environment Friend. There's Generous, Hailsham, Mr. Piggott on Hokusai, Hundra, followed by Mujasif and Marjorie.
And Corrupt was taking a good hold there on the way down to the start, John. Running just a little bit free there with Cash Asmussen. And the others I'm watching him going down, looking like he's enjoying himself, was Marju.
Yes, Corrupt, as you say. Must be quite a place on a hard puller because you're going downhill into the paddock there.
Looked in really good form with himself, and I've just watched Too Long canter down with him, and I'm certainly not having any worries about the ground being too fast for him. He looked perfectly happy. He didn't look as though he was jarred up in the slightest.
And here's Mystico being taken down. Look at Michael Roberts hacking him down.
Did exactly the same in the 2000 Guineas. They've done a wonderful job there at Carlsberg Stables, getting this horse relaxed, and considering the parade and everything else that he's had to endure again, looks like a really, well, looks almost Grand Prix dressage class.
Really lovely exhibition of psychiatry by Michael Roberts, calming him down.
And the leaders in the betting are Toulon and Karat, both at 4-1 joint favourites. Mystico on 5-1, Hector Protector 6-1 and Generous at 9s. Environment Friend 11-1, Star of Dance on 14s, and Marju a 16-1 chance. Hokusai is at 28-1, Hailsham 33s, Mujasif at 50s, Hundra 66-1, and Arakat, the extreme outsider, 250-1, all quoted.
Asmussen or Piggott? I haven't got a Piggott window. Here they come through, and there's Leicester on the hockey's eye, and here's John Oaksey.
Well, Jim McGrath was talking to Leicester earlier in the week and asked him, when you made a comeback, Leicester, were you thinking of a 10th Derby victory?
Well, obviously I thought about it then, yeah.
And your ride this afternoon is Hokusai. He's been dismissed as a bit of an outsider. First, did you think he'd stay?
Well, that applies to a lot of them, but I think he's got a reasonable chance of staying, you know. And you know, he got a fair outside chance, really. You know?
And in an open year, Leicester, apart from him, what would you see as the horse you'd like to be associated with?
Well, you know, there's a lot of horses that you could give a very good chance to, you know. But the horse I like a lot is Star of Dance.
Well, that's a great tribute to the Irish hope, but let's all hope that Hokusai gives Leicester a great ride, and we don't need to worry that Hokusai will certainly get a great ride in return. He isn't certain to stay, but then, as Leicester says, so that applies to an awful lot of them.
And Stephen Little here on the rails has just laid a £20,000 bet. Mystico at 5-1. It has touched 11-2. 5 is very tight. But we have joint favourites now for the Ever-Ready Derby. Corrupt at 4-1, who is the 10th horse to have been made favourite for the Derby, along with Toulon, a very strong 4-1 chance. But good money too now for Hector Protector into 6-1, 9-1 Generous, and they're backing the Environment Friend. 12-1, 11-1 now, Environment Friend. 14 Star of Gdansk. That will be a terrible result for betting shops in Ireland. 16 Marju, and Ladbrokes the Magic Sign are backing Hailsham at 40-1, and Hokusai, who's now into 25-1. But in 1806, a horse called Paris won the Derby. 185 years on, will Toulon, is he about to become the second French city to be inscribed on the Derby Roll of Fame? Toulon and Paris, will they both have won the Derby in about 10 minutes' time?
one of the most impressive sights. I don't know if you saw the Prix du Jockey Club, the French Derby on Sunday, but one of the most impressive winners I've seen for a long time was Suave Dancer. And Jim McGrath asked to Corrupt's rider, Cash Asmussen, how he compared Corrupt with Suave Dancer.
Well, I tell you, he brought me down the hill at Lingfield better than I've ever been carried down it. He got a bit of a bump in the turn. He won by 4. The forms worked out well. I've got to go for a double. I think that Corrupt can give me the same rush.
But you were very confident about winning the French Derby. Are you as confident, or are you just hopeful about the Epsom?
Well, I guess that wasn't really a big secret, the way the Suave Dancer ran in the French Derby. I wouldn't be a genius to tell you I was a bit confident going into that one. I wouldn't be on top of the form in England near as much as I would have been here. I've run him against most of these horses with Suave Dancer. He held them most of them safe. He ran a bit green in Lupin, but I felt that he could pick up Kudus, and he did. So I wouldn't be as educated on the English form, but I would say that Corrupt he looks like he's on top of it.
He's pretty educated on any form, I'd say. Corrupt, what a short price he would have been throughout if he'd been trained by Henry Cecil in a fashionable stable rather than Neville Callahan's comparatively unfashionable one.
Really fascinating contest, John. So many years it's just down to really 2 or 3 horses. This year you could make a good case for most of them.
Isn't it? But there's Toulon. Well, we've been wondering about whether he'll act on the course, and that was what Jim McGrath asked his rider, Pat Henry.
Well, I'm not worried about the track, because I'm certain the horse, he's a big chap, but he rides like a little horse. He acts very well. He went round Chester beautifully. There would be a doubt of the ground being a bit too firm, but I'm very hopeful. He's a good horse, and I'm sure he'll give me a great ride.
And they're now just beginning to circle round behind the stalls. Lester Piggott, who's drawn 1, will, I think, probably be first in. That's not altogether characteristic. In the old days, I always used to think he managed to go in as late as possible, but if you're drawn 1, that's it. And he's in on the youngest horse in the field, Hokusai. I don't think that Lester, he's just taking the weight off Hokusai's back, and no doubt easing his knees, not that they need any easing, but the angle he sits at, it's a good deal more comfortable like that, no doubt. Cash Asmussen doing the same thing on Corrupt, 2 stalls away.
Toulon and Corrupt, the 4-to-1 joint favourites. Mystico 5-to-1, Hector Protector on 6s, Generous at 9s, Environment Friend 11-to-1, Star of Cadence 14s together with Marju, Hokusai and Hailsham both at 25s, Mujalsi 50-to-1 together with Hundra, and Arakat 250-to-1, all quoted.
Now, what a moment. The tension building across the downs, and at its highest, no doubt, now in the stalls. Not perhaps in Leicester's stall, but they're not all as cool as him.
That was a great shot we had of Leicester going in there, giving Hokusai a nice pat on the neck, keeping him nice and relaxed. Cash Asmussen doing exactly the same thing, 3 stalls over on Corrupt. Just about all in now. Over to you, Graham.
So they lined up for the Eveready Derby. Leicester nearest to us on Hokusai. That's it. Keith Brown has them away. A pretty level break. Tactically very significant through the first quarter mile as they break away and begin this surprisingly sharp climb of the first turn. And it's Mystico the leader. Mystico is taking them, and it's Mystico leading from Arakat. Generous plays 3rd. Star of Gdansk 4. Hector Protector for France in 5, and Hokusai steaming through on the inside 6. Corrupt is 7, and Marju and Mujalsi mid division with Hailsham and Environment Friend and Hunter and Toulon is the back marker, and they've gone through the first quarter mile. And it's Mystico the leader. Mystico the leader by a length to Arakat, a gap of 3 then to Generous, and Hokusai 3rd and 4th, with up on the outside of these Racing Hunter, and then behind these comes Star of Gdansk. Marju is mid-division, Toulon is still last and first, and so too is Corrupt as they go through the first half mile. And it's Mystico the Guinness winner as they pass the mile post. Mystico leading with Arakat up on the outside and showing 3rd next to the rails is Hokusai in the white cap on the outside. Hector Protector, Environment Friend, the grey, is on the outside of the pack. Star Gdansk, Big Division, Mujasif, Marju, the rail, Corrupt, put to sleep at the back, and they go to the top of the hill. And as they come past the halfway stage, it's Mystico blazing a trail. Arakat, the pacemaker for Toulon, can't keep with him. A gap of 2 lengths. Toulon's a second last. They begin the descent and they go past the halfway stage, and Mystico the leader by a neck to Arakat, showing in second, and Generous third, and Hector Protector 4. And then behind these, Hokusai the rail 5. Marju sneaks up on the inside 6. Hailsham gets closer, and then Star of Gdansk, and these are followed by Hundra and Mujasif, and Toulon and Corrupt still nearer last and first as they come down past Tattenham Corner, and Leicester's trying to get a bit closer on Hokusai. Environment Friend gets reminders, and Toulon is still last as they begin the descent now and start the turn in. Marju is tailed off, and it's Mystico in front, but here comes Generous in the dark green jacket. Hokusai the rails making significant progress, and then Hector Protector, Hailsham with a run. Toulon on the wide outside of the pack. They've got 2 furlongs to go, and it's Generous now the leader, but Hector Protector on the outside comes with a run. They're inside the final quarter mile, and Generous commits and goes on from Hector Protector. A furlong and a half to go, and it's Generous in the lead from Marju, who's powering through, coming through to second place. They've got a furlong to go in the Ever Ready Derby, and it's Generous and young Alan Munro on only his second Derby ride, clear from Marju in second, and then they race up towards the line. Generous takes it. Generous is the winner from Marju second. Star of Gdansk comes through to be third. A photo 4 between Hundra and Hector Protector, and then Corrupt followed by Hokusai. Hailsham, Toulon never went on the track. Mystico only beat 3 home, and they were Environment Friend, and then Arakat, and last of all was Mujasif that dropped out to be tamely last of all, and was last for a long way. And so the result of this, the Ever Ready Derby, it's gone to number 4, Generous, in the colours of Fard Salman. This one trained at Watcombe by Paul Cole and ridden by young Alan Munro on only his second Derby ride. Generous, the 9-1 winner. The second horse home is number 9, Marju, the mount of Willie Carson, in the colours of Hamdan Al Maktoum, trained at Arundel by John Dunlop. And number 9, Marju, was second. Third horse home for me was number 12, Star of Gdansk, nosing into the frame on the line in the colours of Mr. Henry de Kwiatkowski, trained in Ireland by Jim Bolger and ridden by Christy Roach. It's desperately close call for 4th place. We'll leave that one to the judge, but the winner is number 4, Generous, bred at the Barrettstown stud. Well done to them and all their team. But here he comes, Generous, a son of Caerleon, out of a mare called Doff the Derby, and here's number 4, Generous, coming back to the winner's enclosure. A great ride by Alan Munro. Let's see him do it again.
And what a marvellous opportunist ride, and what a fine result, because no doubt about this being a substandard derby now. The winners won by a long way, and the second was a good way ahead of the rest. Alan Munro in 3rd place there, just drawing up to Arakat, the pacemaker. Mystico, who's made the running, doesn't, I'm afraid, maintain his gallop. He doesn't get the trip, but Generous does.
Oh, the writing was on the wall from beginning into the home turn. Really, Alan Munro's only just picked him up hands and heels here. Just look behind. All the others are just trailing in his wake, and the further he goes, the farther he's winning. Paul Cole, this has just put the icing on the cake. Had a great year last year. He won the St. Ledger with Snurge. Won the Irish Derby. He's had a really great time with the last 2 seasons. One's got to feel a little bit sorry for Richard Quinn, who lost his job with Foul Salmon early on. Done a lot of the work on this horse, but Alan Munro's given him a peach of a ride. Second winner of the afternoon, and by far the most important. Oldest horse in the race too, Generous. Age playing its part. And Marju ran a blinder to be second. Well, Mystico looked to be running away, turning for home. And whether he didn't get the trip or whether his bruised foot was playing him up, I don't know. Michael Roberts got him quite smartly. Looks sound enough there.
Generous has returned the 9-1, 5th favourite. It did touch 10-1 here on the course. The second, Marju, is a 14-1 chance, and the third, Star of Gdansk, also returned at 14-1. They sent Corrupt and Toulon off the 4-1 joint favourites, but that Generous, only the 3rd horse in history to be 4th in the 2,000 guineas and win the Derby. Barham did it in 1930, Papyrus in 1923. Old-timers, remember that, they'll be on Generous.
And delighted, understandably delighted, Alan Munro. What a day for him. Who knows, maybe we're seeing the next Lester Piggott, because Alan is at the start of his career, has just got the job as retained jockey to Prince Fahd Salman, and ever since he got that job, he's been wonderfully successful. As John said, real sadness and sympathy will be felt everywhere for Richard Quinn, who's done so well so often in these colours. But that's the other welcome. Prince Fahd Salman, a nephew of Khalid Abdallah, the other tremendously successful owner, whose Toulon, in fact, didn't act on the track at all, or didn't appear to, it seemed to me. But we shall now have to get used to, and we won't find any difficulty getting used to, Alan Munro's American-style whip action and his wonderfully stylish crouch. He gets marvellously low in and streamlined, John.
Extremely polished, very dedicated. He's smiling and somebody else would be smiling. It would be Hamish Alexander who bought this horse, and who's got a full brother to him at home already. So I just think he's got a grin from ear to ear.
Yes, he cost 200,000 Irish punts as a yearling, having only cost 80,000 Irish punts as a foal at the Irish National foal, and then the breeding stocks, the Cartier Million sale, he was sold for 200,000 guineas to Prince Salman.
And incredibly successful, this team. We've said it before, they don't have an awful lot of horses in training compared with Sheikh Mohammed and Hamdan Al Maktoum, but incredibly successful. Anthony Penfold, along with Paul Cole, and one or two others do a really good job at buying the yearlings. And certainly been extremely successful over the last 5 or 6 years.
So nearly successful in the world's most valuable race, in the Breeders' Cup, when Ibn Bay was only just touched off on Breeders' Cup Day. Well, this is a great triumph for Coolmore, where the Nijinsky horse, Carleon, stands. Generous is Carleon's best son to date, but the female line is a very distinguished one too, because it's a family which has produced fillies and racehorses as distinguished as the great Triptyque, the late and much lamented Triptyque, and Trillion, her dam. Very many winners, in fact, come from that female line, and the Grand Dame was a distinguished German mare, Margaretten.
Can I get out? Yeah. You're going now.
It's Anthony Penfold just standing with her back to us. Certainly a popular winner in the Lambourne area, this. It worked particularly well at Newbury just a short time ago with some older horses, Zoman and Half a Tick, and other horses that have been running particularly well. Very strongly fancied indeed. Taking it all in as he's standing there. Certainly the easiest Derby winner we've seen for a while. Let's have a look at his starting price.
First, number 4, Generous at 9 to 1. Second, number 9, Marju, 14 to 1. And third, number 12, Starter Cadence at 14 to 1 again. The joint favourites were number 2, Corrupt, and number 13, Toulon, both at 4 to 1. And the tape returns win £11.20. Places 370, 330 and £2.20. The dual forecast came to £77.70. Trio came to £326.70 and 13 rand.
And the fourth horse just being announced over the public address system, and that was number 6, Hector Protector, was officially placed 4th, so I think we'll find that Hundra was 5th and Corrupt 6th, that to be confirmed by the judge. but the winning distance was 5 lengths and 7 lengths between second and third. So a lot of daylight off quite a strong pace in this ever-ready derby, and finds his son of Caerleon Generous ears pricked in the winner's enclosure, wondering what it's all about. He's just become the most valuable piece of property in the horse racing world. Generous in the colours of Mr. Fard Salmon, trained at Watcombe by Paul Cole and ridden by Alan Munro on only his second derby ride. And there may just have been a little bit of argy-bargy in behind with horse number 800, but Mystico went too fast to last. He's dropped tamely away next to the rails. But look at Hundra in the green jacket behind, Lester Piggott on the white cap on the rails. Take our eyes off the leader for a moment. Hundra there just checked in his run momentarily, and he, I think, was placed 5th in the end. But here comes Generous coming home, completely reversed the placings with Mystico in the Guineas, but this trip much, much more up his street than that. And Alan Munro, well, a jockey find. He's started life, and very rarely do you see Alan allow himself any sort of victory at all, and we did there with Generous, and why not? And good afternoon, madam, and I hope you back Generous. Have you? Yes, I'll have a drop of that as well, thank you. But now we've got Alan Munro with Bruff.
Yes, a dream ride for Alan Munro. Congratulations, Alan. It must have been a tremendous moment all the way through, but beforehand, how real do you think it could be?
Prior to the race, it was kind of an impossible thought, really, that I could actually win the Derby. But you see how surprisingly easy it is when you have a good horse, you know.
And through the race, early on?
He was travelling really good throughout, and when we came around the Tapman corner, I was expecting Moose to pick up on, on the favourite. But, he just kind of folded away, and I took the lead very comfortably. And when I quickened, I knew it'd take a good horse to catch me.
Well, we're running down the hill, as you say, you're third then. And coming through and down, how did he handle the inclines? Because nothing you do at home can imitate this.
No, but he is a good, well-balanced colt, very strong, and, he coped with it very easily. There wasn't a hitch to him at all.
Then on and through, did you at any stage have a look behind to see if there's anything close to you?
Well, when I've taken the lead, I've just tried to sit for a while, and a horse came to my girth, or at least a head appeared, and that's when I've kicked. That was approaching, I think, the 2.5. And like I say, I got a really good response. And it would have, I was kind of very confident then, because of the burst he gave me, that it would take a very good horse to pick me up, And he wasn't tying up at all.
Really? So he can go almost further, but it doesn't need to go any further. But he completely demolished them now, 5 lengths, and he's done an incredibly fast time, 2:34.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he?
And the American style doesn't do any harm.
It's good, isn't it?
And you must have nearly fallen off, or you punched the air so hard when he came past.
No, we don't get to see that.
Now, Alan, I think you went last night to a gentleman who's been to the Derby a lot of times, Lester Piggott.
I went to see Lester, actually, but he was off racing, and he left me with his very, his father, who's a very nice man, and helped me out with, with a great deal of tips, and he was very helpful, and it's probably made a difference today,
Alan, we talked to you at Chester when the news had just come through. You were rather shaken by the news that you'd got this contract with Prince Fard Salmon, and you've already had a suspension. How's it gone?
Well, I mean, obviously, so far it's fabulous. Best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. He's got some really nice horses, and hopefully I'll continue to do them justice, hopefully.
Alan, it's been very good to talk to you. Many congratulations for all of us on Channel 4.
Thank you very much.
Paul, many congratulations. That is the ambition come true, is it?
It certainly is, yeah. It's every trader's ambition, win the English Derby.
And what's it like for the ambition come true? What is the actual ultimate feeling like?
Well, other than a bit of a sore voice, it hasn't really sunk in yet.
Is that with the shouting or what, though?
Well, it started with a cold last week, and the shouting didn't help it.
Tell us when you actually thought you were going to win the Derby. I mean, obviously you fancied this horse. I heard he did a good gallop at Newbury Racecourse.
He did a marvellous gallop at Newbury Racecourse. It was just a bit too good to be true, really, but the 3 horses in front of him all had group form afterwards, and we were getting quite excited, really.
Now, we've been following his progress in the Racing Post this week, because you've had a journalist almost living in with you, and you're the coolest guy I know, but how much pressure has there been on you and your staff over the past few weeks with a leading contender?
Well, one has to take these things as they come along. I mean, if you get get too excited or too depressed, it makes it difficult. You've got to be nice and balanced and level about it. But you know, this is the best chance I've ever had, and one did worry about him, worried about standing on a stone or a partridge getting up or anything happening. You know, you're following the horse all through the day and all through the night, so it is a lot of pressure, really. But it's the same with all horses and all trainers.
You've certainly kept the pressure off the horse, because what I understand, he apparently is the most relaxed horse anybody's ever seen. Is that right? What sort of horse is he?
Well, he's not a relaxed horse at all. You know, he's very, very highly strung.
Really?
And we've been to a lot of effort in the last month, not so much getting him fit, but keeping his temperament right.
And how have you been doing that?
Well, we've been doing it the way he's been trained. We've avoided galloping him. His Newbury gallop's his last gallop, and he's got a fantastic lad that looks after him. I mean, he really is a good lad. He's quiet and patient, and we've picked him a sprig of chestnut leaves in the evening and anything to keep him happy and relaxed. And the staff have done a fantastic job, really.
Because back home in Watcombe, it is a very famous stable. A number of Derby winners were actually bred there and raced there, and some famous names.
Yeah, exactly. It seems to be the place to produce a Derby winner. Morstan, Blakeney, and Blenheim, Trigos, and Blandford Sire, 4 Derby winners.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic place, and this horse has sort of kept up the tradition.
But when you actually moved to Watcombe, I mean, it needed a bit of renovation. How much of the help, how much appreciation was there from the man who's owned the Derby winner, Fried Salmon?
Well, he's been a great supporter to me all the way through. I mean, no Brinsford, no B. Cole.
Really? It's as simple as that?
Well, he's given me the material.
Yeah. And you started 22 years ago with how many horses?
We started with 3 horses, yeah.
And this is the ambition?
Got about 103, yes, we're there now.
And where now? I mean, you've done it. I mean, are we now going to see the big confrontation? The French Derby winner, Suave Dancer, now goes to Ireland for the Budweiser. What about this horse?
Well, that's very possible, yeah. But, you know, you've got to give yourself 24 hours to think about these things and discuss it with the owner and everybody else involved.
And celebrate tonight?
Yeah, certainly, yeah.
I would think you might. You're feeling a bit better now?
Yeah, much better.
Paul Cole may be suffering from flu, but he's feeling a bit better now. Really, there was only 1 horse in it. That was Generous. But let's have a full look now, a full rundown of where the 13 horses finished in the 1991 Derby.
So Generous won at 9-1. Marju was second at 14-1. Star of Gdansk third at 14-1, and Hector Protector was fourth. Hundra just nosed out into 5th place. Corrupt eventually finished 6th. Lester Piggott and Hokusai was 7th. Steve Cawthon and Hailsham were 8th. Pat Edery on Toulon 9th. Number 10 Mystico was 11th. 10th was Mystico. 11th was Environment Friend. 12th was Arakat. And then trailing as they turned in was Mujasif, and he finished last of all, very remote there. And Alan Munro punches the air on the winner, Generous.
With us now, Prince Fard Salman, the leading owner in the country, the owner of Generous. Congratulations, the dream of winning a Derby winner.
Thank you very much.
When did you first think of Generous as the Derby winner?
Well, I've had horses over the years, and every time you have a runner, I suppose, you wish that it would win. So I have always been wishing that a horseman would win the Derby. I never ever thought a horseman would win the Derby. But I still don't really believe it. I mean, I was watching the race from my box, and I just stood like that. And everyone was telling me that the horse won it, and I wouldn't move until it passed the winning line. And I kept saying to myself, it's just another race at Leicester somewhere. Until the horse passed the winning line, then I realized I actually won the Derby. And I'm very grateful to God and to my trainer and my racing manager and the jockey and all the stable lasses and everyone connected with the horse. I'm really grateful to them.
But the journey to the horse, it's 2nd of May he won as a 2-year-old over 5 furlongs at Ascot. Did you think he was a Derby winner then?
Well, when he won at Ascot, it says on the trophy, it says Epsom. So it's a bit of a hint. But we always thought very highly of the horse. We always thought he will get a 1.5 miles. We were not too sure about the mile. Having said that, I don't think he ran his true race at the Guineas. I mean, the whole race was really, there were 2 races in 1 race. And he won the race that he was in, and Mystico won the other race. And I always thought of him to be a good horse, particularly 1.5 mile horse.
And where does he go now? Where do you think? Sky's the limit with him?
No, I wouldn't go as far as that, but I'll leave it to the trainer. Hopefully I would assume the King George would be the ideal race for him. We'll see how the horse comes out of the race.
Tell us about your own involvement in racing. You came to what turned you on to British racing?
Well, I've liked horses ever since I was a young boy, and it has been always part of my life. But I enjoyed English racing more than any other racing in the world. There is much better atmosphere, and I am just over the moon to see myself winning the creme de la creme of French racing.
Of course, Prince Fahd, you have heavy responsibilities back home in Saudi Arabia. In the winter, we were seeing you...
Yeah, well, that's another thing. I'll leave that. At this moment, I want to concentrate on the racing part of it.
But tell us, you had very difficult decisions you did take to replace Richard Quinn as your jockey with Alan Munro. How did that come about?
Well, you see, the whole thing was blown out of proportion. Richard rides for the yard, and I wanted to have my own jockey. And I didn't feel it was right for me to stop Richard from riding for other owners that Paul has got. So I thought I ought to get another jockey, but still Richard rides for me, and he's a very good jockey, an extremely decent man. And I see him every time when they work the horses. Yeah. There is no problem there at all. You know, just a change, I suppose.
But generous anyway, and Alan Munro, you have a magnificent day. Congratulations to all of us on Channel 4.
Thank you, and everyone was too generous to me as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's great to be in the winner's enclosure, but what's it like not actually to win the Derby? Freddie Head came over here from France this morning, hoping to ride Hector Protector to victory. Only for what went wrong, Freddie?
Well, nothing. Obviously, my horse didn't stay. I had every chance. The 2 furlong marker, I came with a good chance, and then he didn't stay, and he finished very tired.
But at least he stayed on to finish 4th in the end, yes. Which is guts. So now I've got to ask you, you rode in the French Derby on Sunday. You've ridden in the English Derby today. Suave Dance looked very impressive over there. Generous looked very impressive. Difficult, but how would you compare them?
Well, it is difficult to answer such a question. No doubt Suave Dance is a good horse, and Generous today was quite impressive. I think there shouldn't be much between the two. It's hard to say, really.
If the two got together in the Irish Derby, which would you like to ride if you had the choice?
On a fast-run race, on a real true mile-and-a-half race, I think I would ride Generous.
Really? That's interesting. For a Frenchman, you'd go for the English horse.
Yes, maybe, yes.
What about yourself? I mean, you'd be coming over, you'd have dearly loved to win today.
Yes, I would have. I thought my horse behaved like a champion in the parade. He was very quiet at the start, and I am disappointed because I thought that he had a good chance of winning today.
For a man who's ridden world-class racing all around the world, how do you rate the Epsom Derby? Is it still the number one?
Well, it has to be one of the best races in the world, yes.
It has. Well, hard luck anyway, but it's nice to have you here. Freddie Head, always a welcome visitor to these shores. Well, Freddie wasn't the only beaten jockey. There were a number of others as well, and some ran very disappointingly indeed. Let's start with George Duffield, who rode Environment Friend. Now, this horse was very strongly fancied, but as George said, the horse ran just too bad to be true. He was gone at the top of the hill. And I tell you what, when George Duffield came in, he was very disappointed and dejected. He thought this was his big Derby ride. What about the man who came back after 6 years? Lester Piggott rode Hokusai, who ran exceptionally well. And Lester said, I'd have been 3rd if I'd have stayed, but he just didn't get the last furlong. But Lester Piggott giving Hokusai an absolutely superb ride. I wonder how many jockeys would have got him as close as that. But the big disappointment of them all came with Mystico and Michael Roberts. Michael Roberts came back and he said quite simply, the horse didn't settle and didn't stay. There's nothing wrong with the horse. He's a completely sound horse. He didn't settle and didn't stay, and that's why Michael Roberts finished nearer last than first. Well, that's the disappointment of the Derby. Everybody builds themselves up. 13 started, but only one could win, and that was Alan Munro, the rider of Generous. Let's have an SP from Yarmouth. JT.
Thank you, Derek, and it's the 3 o'clock, won by number 2, Artform, the 11 to turn on favourite. Second, number 3, Evanon at 8 to 1, and third, number 1, Calgary Red Eye, 3 to 1. 5 round. And at Yarmouth, the 3:30 was won by number 5, Freak Toss at 8 to 1. Second, number 8, Express Account, 15 to 2, and third, number 1, Bijah Floor, the 2 to 1 favourite, and 8 round. The 4 o'clock, first number 2, Finance Dancer, 11-10 on favourite. The second number 3, High Habit, 11-2. And third number 4, Incorrendo at 8-1, 12 round.
Andrew, am I good? Usual. Hello. Well, we've got with us now the most important cog in the whole setup, Robert Latham and Generous. Robert, I tell you, how confident were you? I mean, it's really impressive in the end. Did you always think he was going to win?
No, I didn't. I just fancied him a little bit, just a little bit.
But I mean, he's actually bolted it. We all said beforehand how tight a race it looked, but I mean, he must have made an awful lot of improvement from the Guineas.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's what, £10 better.
And we were just saying before, you look amazingly laid back. Did you back him at all?
No, I didn't. Not a penny. No.
But do you ride him work?
No, I don't ride him work. Just his routine work. The work jockeys ride him his serious bits of work.
And how long have you looked after him for?
Since he was 2, just turned 2.
I mean, is he a good horse to look after? I mean, he looks like he's got a really lovely temperament.
He's a very good horse to look after, yeah. Extremely good temperament. To do in the box and to ride, very, very good.
And how long have you been at Paul's?
9 years.
And, I mean, they've had 1 or 2 horses that they fancied. I mean, they've had some good horses the last 2 or 3 years. But, I mean, he really could be anything. He's going to take a good horse to lower his colours now.
Yeah, it's going to take a good horse to beat him now.
And where do you think... Well, I know where you'll be going. I suppose you'll be down the Swan tonight?
Yeah, down the Swan, with the lads.
And how about him? Will he go to the Irish Derby?
I wouldn't know. You'd have to see the governor about that, because I really wouldn't know.
Well, wherever he goes, I'm sure it's going to be... I'd like to see him go to the Irish Derby, take on Suave Dancer. But, Robert, really well done.
Thanks very much. Thanks. Cheers.
I think the owner, Fad Salman, said they were thinking of going for the King George. But before the race, it looked so open, didn't it? But the distances in the end were 5 lengths and 7 lengths, and reminiscence of 1986, when Slip Anchor beat Law Society 7 lengths, with Damister 6 lengths away third. And that Generous, the third horse, as I said, to be 4th in the 2,000 Guineas and win the Derby, Blenheim in 1930 and Paris in 1923. And he's the 13th Dewhurst Stakes winner to come on and win the Derby. Remember, last year, Generous had 50-1, saved the bookmakers in the Dewhurst. Well, the very first Dewhurst winner, Kisber, won the 1876 Derby, and in the last 60 years, some great horses have won the Dewhurst and the Derby. The Minstrel and Grundy in the 70s, along with Milreef and Nijinsky, Crapello and Pinzer in the 50s, and you go back to Hyperion in 1933. But starting at 9-1, that Generous, he was a bigger price than all of them. As for the second horse, Marju, he's the 7th Craven Stakes winner to be runner-up in the Derby. The last was Dancing Brave 5 years ago. And the third horse, that Star of Gdansk, well, other Irish horses that were third were like Dilettanti in 64, Ragusa in 63, and Kithnos in 1960. But the result is a tremendous one for the bookmakers. They beat all the front horses, and the places especially were outstanding for them. When you think that Corrupt was the best-backed horse on the day, a lot of each-way bets for the Environment Friend. Hailsham was popular, Ladbrokes the Magic Sign backed that, as so was Hector Protector. Hokusai and Piggott, all that money for Piggott coming back is in the bookmaker satchels and is in their cash tills. Marju, of course, those people who said he shouldn't have been brought back in the betting at the Dante, he's justified it now by a tremendous run. And the desperately disappointing Mystico and Toulon, their supporters cannot believe how badly he ran. But the one thing about you can say about Generous possibly going for the King George, well, 10 Derby winners in that year have gone on to win the King George, and most recently Nashwan, Reference Point, Shergar and Troy. If Generous can go on and beat the older horses and join those illustrious horses who completed the double, he will truly be a tremendous Derby winner. But looking at him here, he looks pretty useful. Suave Dancer, better watch it if he comes over to take on Generous. Meanwhile, aren't I lucky? I've got my booby here, and she's got the Channel 4 umbrella. You may need it yet, booby.